Coach, when when Tate gets thrown into a situation like that at halftime, is that a situation where coaches spend a lot of time with the quarterback going back out for the second half, or do you let him talk to the players mostly and you guys do your coach stuff? I mean, how do you handle that situation?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the storyline would be if there was some big speech or there was a moment where everybody came together and rallied. Not really, man. He put the work in all week, and the week before. So the speeches and motivation don't mean nothing if he didn't put the work in practice. So what he did a good job was being locked in practice, and when his moment came and his opportunity came, he was ready for it. But if he didn't put the work in before, it wouldn't have mattered. So that's what, Coach does a good job of preaching is you don't never know when your moment's going to come, but just make sure you're prepared for it. He was just prepared for it.
Was there a moment that you saw Tate that kind of just clicked for him, like, in the game? Because obviously he came out, struggled a little bit in the first half. Mm-hmm. Was there a moment you just thought kind of clicked for him?
Well, no, I mean, I wouldn't say, of course, you don't have what you have to go off of, but, I mean, on that play he got hit, so, struggle is a tough word. I think, he knew the game plan coming in. He knew how we wanted to attack. We know his strengths, and the offense is built to have the strength of the players. So, he came out and did his job, That's all we ask him to be is be yourself. You don't have to be more than you. You don't have to, the work you put in the show and be yourself when you go out there. There wasn't an eye-gazing moment like this is, man. I think when he came into the huddle, Coach said, take a deep breath, let's go to work. And that was it. Let's go play.
On the second touchdown, the ultimate game-winning touchdown,
mm-hmm.
Can you just walk us through what the play call was? And it seemed on trained eye that it was as perfectly executed as possible by both quarterback and receiver.
Well, Tate did a good job because, that wasn't the first option. So, the first option was taken away, and that was the second option. He got a good job with his eyes and getting back to it, and he delivered a good ball. And that's what we talked about. None of this works unless Tate was mentally locked in practice, understands the game plan, and Tate's not – he's been in for a while with us. So he knows what's going on. He understands the expectation of the offense, so he did a good job. But that was just him doing a good job of first thing he's taken away, what's my second option? He got to and threw a good ball.
Coach, I guess, part of the reason you guys are able to absorb these injuries on the offensive line and still continue to perform well is because you kind of established the fact that everyone's just got to be ready to go. But
mm-hmm.
when these things start piling up, is there any point where, I don't know, at least internally you get a little bit discouraged? To see a guy like Robert go down, or is this simply just the fruits of you kind of staying firm on the guys that you're able to continue to perform well?
Well, no, those guys got a good, it's the same thing we just talked about with Tate. When your opportunity comes, are you ready for it and have you prepared for it? That's the same as players and coaches. So I got to make sure we have a good plan when these things happen, that it's not a moment of what are we going to do. If we get to a moment of what we're going to do, then I did a poor job, Now, so I got to make sure we understand if a guy goes down, who's going in, what's expected, and were they given enough reps during the week to be able to perform. And so that's what we do, And, of course, nobody wants these players to get hurt. That's not the goal. We feel bad for that and all that kind of things. But, the game, we always say it's 100% injury rate. If you play this game long enough, eventually you'll be hurt. You can ask anybody that plays it. So we just want to make sure we have a plan moving forward and we give guys the confidence to go out there and perform when their number gets called.
There are a lot of 6'7" guys out there playing basketball, doing different things. Mm-hmm. How rare is it for Johnny to do what he does in terms of blocking, running routes, the things he can do on a football field?
Well, Johnny's a good player. He's of course we're going to see the highlight plays, but when you look at plays away from the ball, like you talk about blocking, being engaged in practice, and guys that get to come out of practice, we've seen Johnny do this. So it wasn't like an overly celebration. We were happy he got to display the work he's been putting in. But no, Johnny's a little different, man. You talk about that height, size, strength, mentality, and that's what I want to give him more credit. Anything, his mentality. I saw it in mat drills when he first got here. The first couple of mat drills, he was struggling. But that's going to tell that told me who he was because he bounced back and started working hard. He didn't let it get the best of him. So when I saw that, I knew Johnny was going to be fine. So, yeah, we'd like to get some bigger guys in here from that basketball court, but I understand both ways.
Brendan, what's the value of having someone like Darius Washington, who, guys have talked about this before, can play 5 spots? For him to be ready, I guess, for that moment, how important was that?
Darius played a lot of reps of tackle in this program, so it wasn't like some big, speech or anything. Coach, I got it. The biggest thing for Darius is he's developed as a center. He's been a center. He started at center. He's played a lot of guard, and he's tackle position. That's normal for him. He played that for the last 2 years as a starter. So him getting in there was no big adjustment. He was fine. He was ready. That's what he can do it.
Actually, we'll go to Avalon first.
You know, in the second half there, I don't know. It seemed like you guys really were able to keep Louisville off balance. I mean, just in terms of being able to take deep shots with Johnny, running the ball well effectively. Just, I guess, how fulfilling is it for as a coaching staff, you know, to be able to call what you guys want to call and be able to execute what you guys want to execute despite a defense, you know, kind of being on their heels?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, I guess the question is, you know, how do we feel about executing? We fully expect it, you know, and so we expected us to execute when we came out in the second half once everybody kind of settled down. Credit to Louisville, you know, they did some things the adjustment-wise to make sure they threw us off a little bit too. They did a good job. Coach Brown's a good coach. But what I like about the players is when you give them the adjustments, they understand them. They're not looking at you with that blank stare like, what are you talking about? You know, they can, when you give them the adjustment, hey, we're doing this tweak, we're going to change this, hey, they're doing this a little different than what we planned all week. If they can get it and you see that eye gaze of understanding, then you know you'll be fine. You know, if they don't have that eye gaze of understanding, I mean, I did a poor job of preparing them for the moment. So the players were locked in, you know, we were seeing the field well, and it wasn't a huge, like, there wasn't a huge adjustment at halftime. It was just more of, you know, this is what we think they can work, you know, and things that we already had in the game plan that we didn't have to go, you know, draw up in the dirt, a new play and all that kind of stuff. And Tate had a full picture and understanding of what we were trying to do. So it's just, that's the expectation. That's why they work. That's why we spend so much time with them, because in those moments we got to be able to perform.
How'd you feel like the backs did overall, and particularly Trey had some huge runs late in that game?
He did. You know, we try to use, you know, we talk about the running game being like body blows, man. Eventually that thing's going to pop, you know, you're going to be able to come. And that's what you want to see. You want to see the run game get stronger as the game goes along. And I think those backs do a good job out of running hard at the end to be able. Now, we got to do a better job of closing games in those 4-minute situations. That's something we're going to talk about. And in the end, finishing runs where we're not as short on the goal line, where we get to finish those things in the end zone. But I think as the process is going, we're starting to see improvement with us running stronger as the game goes along.
I know you talked about Johnny a little bit so far. Just his, as a play caller, to have the ability for him to win a jump ball, to have this catch radius outside, blocking. I guess what does that do to open things up for you guys schematically through the course of the game?
Well, he's a problem, you know, and he's going to garner 2 people, you know, and whenever you have that, it's going to help you, because that takes one more guy out the box and one more guy with less responsibility. So, but, you know, Johnny's going to be a problem no matter if it's 1 or 2 people on him. So if he keeps working like he does, he's a problem out here.
Coach Norvell talked about this a little bit, but your wide receivers blocking, how important is that to the run scheme and to the offense overall?
Man, Coach Dugans does a great job of getting those guys to understand, not just blocking, because anybody can say go block people, but understanding leverage, understanding where that ball is going to hit, understanding the timing of the block, and also understanding that that's where most of the holding and penalties come from is outside. And they do a good job of maintaining leverage and not getting those devastating holding calls on long runs. But runs don't go past 4 yards unless the receivers are doing their job. And Coach Dugan's got those jobs really buying into it. And really they're like the bullies of the offense. I mean, because they're not just blocking. They're trying to, you know, they're taking a whole nother level. So, you know, when we do our offensive meeting, we bring those guys in. We like to showcase and show that stuff, and they're bought into it. You know, even just Johnny, but Micah Pittman. You know, people not mention Mike. Mike out there, I mean, he was at the point of attack on a lot of blocks. And it might not be the devastating throw you on the ground block, but he got the hardest time when that safety's rolling down. He got to go meet that guy at the line of scrimmage. So he had some good cuts of that also. So just that room overall has done a really good job of buying into that. And you see that has now opened up. We'll get more opportunities down the field.
You guys brought in a bunch of transfers in the spring, and how important was that those summer months, and how far did it seems like Johnny and Deuce and several guys made a lot of growth between the end of spring and then the start of preseason?
Who don't get enough credit is the guys that are already on the roster. You know, the Keyshawn Heldens, the Pokey Wilsons, the Malik McClain. McClain had big-time players. Like, those guys, when those guys came in here, they embraced them and taught them what to do. You know, it wasn't like of course there's competition in practice. We want to get better, but that room, I've really been proud of how that room came together and said, let's just have the best room we can have. Let's bring it out of each other. So not only was it just the summer and the spring and the coaching, I mean, everybody's going to do that. But when you got older receivers in the room, understanding that we just want to have the best product we can put out there and bind into that system, that's been unbelievable. And that's why we've been able to kind of see the fruits of their labor, too.
We're going to have to stick you guys together moving forward.
Jordan Travis, can you evaluate how he played and what he did well? And it seems like this is kind of is a continuing growth for him.
Jordan's a baller. I mean, That's pretty much really simple I can put it. You know, whether it be throwing it, running it, understanding the checks of the offense. You know, his toughness has grown tremendously. Like, you know, Jordan's a baller, and that's going to be displayed every time he steps out there. We have full confidence in him. He's been through the journey to get to this point of his career, so I'm just glad I get to be a part and watch him do his thing.
Okay. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.